thus indicating a position of lens, cornea, bearing, or touch. This program is divided into 4 main segments.
Now this is important to
The
understand.
first 3 involve spherical bicurve lens fitting on spherical, moderate toricity, and high toricity corneas. The last section will briefly look at high toricity corneas fit with bitoric lenses. Patient and lens specifications, as well as lens fit observations with fluorescein, are provided.
This needs,
Unless otherwise
the
indicated,
difference in the K's equals 0, and that would mean there was a spherical cornea. I hope you guys know it, understand.
known as the flat K, or non-K. Our first segment involves spherical bicurve gas permeable lenses fit on spherical or near spherical corneas. This particular lens is fit on K with the lens radii of curvature matching the corneal curvature as measured with a keratometer. An on-K alignment fit is observed with a fluorescein pattern presenting as diffuse and
It goes up
uniform.
under the lid.
This light and even distribution of fluorescein in the central and intermediate lens areas is typical of an alignment relationship.
This is a rigid lens, right?
An adequate peripheral
Rigid,
curve
yeah.
system shows a brighter fluorescein layer indicating cornea clearance and a smooth blend or transition between the peripheral curve and the optic zone. Fitting a half diopter steeper than K reveals a slight area of central pooling or apical
See
clearance.
how you get a
For the
little
light zone
tears
of
now
the
when you go a little
peripheral
steeper than
touch.
K?
With the average cornea, you might not expect to see the central bubbles observed here, but this is not uncommon with a perfectly spherical cornea. The peripheral curve system is not observable. This may hinder tear exchange behind the lens. At 1 diopter steeper than K, central pooling is more obvious. Excessive mid-peripheral bearing with C-lock is characteristic of a spherical cornea, fit steep. There is no channel for tear exchange behind the lens, as the fluorescein is trapped centrally under the base curve. Peripheral clearance is at a minimum. Changing to a 1.5 diopter steep lens reveals the classic bullseye pattern with distinct central pooling and a large circular band of mid-peripheral bearing. Mid-peripheral C-lock would cause problems with tear exchange and debris removal and possibly result in lens adhesion. The small central bubble is not atypical of a steep lens fit. This lens centers reasonably well. At 2 diopters steep, the circumscribed area of apical clearance is even smaller and more distinct, with an even larger 360-degree band of mid-peripheral bearing or touch. Trapped bubbles move vertically with the blink. Over time, this could result in dimple veiling. Reviewing once again our alignment fit on a spherical cornea, there is a very light, even glow in the central and intermediate areas, with a bright ring giving clearance in the periphery. In contrast, now fitting a lens a half diopter flatter than K, reveals a slightly flat pattern, a horizontal band of bearing superior central, with an inferior pooling of fluorescein. A large amount of lens lag or movement with blink is observed, typical of the look of a traditional flat or loose fit. After the blink, the lens continues falling past the limbus inferior temporally. This lens is fit 1 diopter flat. The paracentral bearing area is much more prominent than the previous example. The lens drops quickly and shifts more temporally. Inferior pooling indicates greater peripheral clearance or standoff. Changing to a 1.5 diopter flat lens on a near spherical cornea shows a wider superior nasal paracentral area of bearing or touch. The lens drops inferior temporal very quickly. Notice the mid-peripheral band of clearance, inferior pooling, and excessive lens lag. This lens would be uncomfortable with considerable edge awareness and flare, especially under reduced illumination. At 2 diopters flatter than the flat K, the inferior temporal clearance has increased. Significant edge lift is present, especially when the lens drops inferior temporal. On a spherical or near spherical cornea, comparing spherical lenses fit 2 diopters flat on K and 2 diopters steeper than K helps to bring out the distinct fluorescein pattern differences between these relationships. In this segment, spherical bicurve gas permeable lenses are fit on moderately astigmatic corneas. This lens is fit on K in the flatter horizontal meridian on a typical with the rule moderately astigmatic cornea. The on-K alignment fit in the horizontal meridian is observed with the fluorescein pattern presenting as a diffuse and uniform band. There is mild mid-peripheral bearing. Peripheral clearance or pooling is found superiorly and inferiorly. Fitting a half diopter steeper than the flat K, the fluorescein pattern is beginning to show apical clearance, with mild mid-peripheral bearing along the horizontal meridian. With a narrow peripheral curve system, there is very little clearance, causing seal-off at the junction of the peripheral curve and optic zone. Changing to a 1 diopter steep lens, the vertical oval pattern of clearance is much more defined, with mid-peripheral bearing noted especially along the horizontal meridian. The lens appears to almost align with the vertical meridian. After the blink, it drops inferiorly, with about 3 to 4 millimeters of lag before hitting the lower lid. At 1.5 diopter steep, the with the rule vertical oval pattern shows clearly with heavy touch or bearing in the mid-periphery.
I see.
There is adequate peripheral clearance with fairly good movement and centering. This lens may feel comfortable initially, but the seal-off in the mid-periphery would hinder
Pushing down
clearance
from what he
change,
explains now.
possibly resulting in
He
edema,
doesn't like it that it's
trapped
pushing down
debris,
so much
and
in the
lens
periphery.
binding to the cornea. A 2.25 diopter steep lens
Right.
reveals an even more pronounced vertical oval pattern centrally. This is the classic steep pattern on a moderate with the rule astigmatic. As expected, the heavy bearing in the mid-periphery is greater in the horizontal than vertical. There is a wide peripheral curve system and excessive lens movement.
Are you getting it?
Reviewing
No, I
once
don't-
again
I
our
don't
Yeah, I got it.
the
I
flatter
don't understand.
horizontal meridian.
Is the fluorescein
On a
inside
with
the
the
eye
rule
bad?
moderately astigmatic
The
cornea,
fluorescein,
there is a
you see the
diffuse and
fluorescein
uniform
where the
band of
tears are.
fluorescein with
Right.
mild
Is that
mid-peripheral
good?
bearing. Peripheral
Put it
clearance
there
or
with the
pooling is
paint-
found
paint it
superior.
on.
Depends on what kind of
to
fit you're going with, Manny. But you should look at this, because I think this is exactly what, oh, I'm sorry, Kaki.
With a zone of apical touch or bearing. The lens drops.
This is what they consider to be
Notice the
ideal.
wide peripheral curve system. At 1 diopter flatter than K, a very loose fit is evident. As expected with a with the rule cornea, the oval touch zone is wider in the horizontal meridian. There is excessive edge lift inferiorly, as well as a peripheral bearing. Observe how the lid influence on lens position changes the appearance of the fluorescein pattern. This can affect a pattern evaluation. The 2 diopter flat fit shows excessive central bearing. This oval apical touch area provides too much pressure on the specific region of the cornea and can result in staining and possibly corneal warpage. The much flatter than K appearance is even more noticeable at the peripheral curve junction, which is actually no longer observable due to excessive edge lift.
There's so much tears going in behind that lens down the bottom part.
On a moderately astigmatic cornea, comparing spherical lenses fit 2 diopters flat on K.
Well, they will give you
and
pictures
2
like that
diopters
and ask you
steeper
to
than K.
describe what's going
Helps to
on.
bring out the distinct fluorescein pattern differences
No,
between
you
each
just have to
lens.
say a steep fit, a flat fit.
In this segment,
No, it's
spherical
doable.
bicurve gas permeable lenses are fit on high astigmatic corneas.
Now you got major footballs.
Fitting a spherical lens on flat K on a high with the rule corneal
That will
astigmatic
be one they will ask
reveals
you.
a classic dumbbell pattern with horizontal bearing and
With the
excessive
rule.
inferior and superior vertical clearance. Centration is reasonably good. The excessive
You
edge
hope you
lift,
get that one.
however,
You can say with the
would
rule,
cause
no,
problems with edge awareness and overall wearing comfort. There is an increased risk of 3 and 9 o'clock staining.
Nothing.
Flare can be a problematic symptom resulting from decentered lens positioning after the flat. At a half diopter steep on a high astigmatic, a slightly steep pattern emerges
Don't
with
cut
more
that
bearing
skin on your eye.
superior vertical
I'd
and
like
inferior
skin on your
vertical.
eyes.
Yeah.
So how did you get,
Unless that back to
how do you fit them on the toric
In
eye?
both nasal and
They
temporal.
have they're weighted, or are they, where you
Increasing to
put
1
your legs on
diopter
that?
steep shows more vertical clearance centrally, with excessive clearance noted in the superior and inferior regions. There is relatively good centration for this lens. Poor tear
It's like
exchange is
trying to
apparent
rotate
in the
it.
horizontal meridian,
I can't rotate
and over the
it
long term
that much
would probably
because
result
it's
in desiccation or dry areas.
Whereas
thing takes a long time.
if it's
Fifty-two
not back to work,
diopters
it'll
deeper than
just,
the flat K shows much more
but you add
vertical
some,
cooling than the
some
previous
curves,
lenses,
right?
No, against
with
schools.
larger arcs appearing peripherally,
That's
adjacent
kind
to
of,
the
that's
horizontal
the idea
ridge.
of it.
But that wouldn't fit on the eye.
We are essentially splitting
No,
K
they do
with
it
this
to fit on
flares.
the eye, they match the curves.
Centration is reasonably good. The vertical clearance or pooling is excessive. Reviewing once again our alignment fit in the flatter horizontal
I'm
ridge
gonna stop the
on
tape at this
elliptical
point, we're gonna take a little break.
triaxic cornea.
When
Reviews
we're
the
done with this
classic
section, we'll do
dumbbell
the
pattern
hard
with
part when we
horizontal
come
bearing
back, which is a
and
tour.
excessive inferior and superior
Yeah.
vertical
Maybe you should-
clearance.
Rewind.
Yeah, it's not that easy.
Spherical lens on half diopter flat. Shows a thinner
I
but
know,
more
he's
definite
talking to you
bearing
like you're
area
a
in the
ophthalmologist.
horizontal slightly superior region.
Is this a base?
A slightly greater edge lift is present inferiorly, as you would expect from a flatter base
Just like the
curve
ones I
ridge.
showed you, you know?
The
Basic,
bubble
they don't, this is
signifies
more
an excessive
sophisticated.
clearance and edge lift in that region.
Yeah, if you know
At one
all this.
diopter flat, a pronounced oval football-shaped area
But
of
the thing
horizontal
is, looking
bearing
at the pattern and
is
saying,
observed slightly
where are the
superior
tears,
center.
where aren't the tears?
There is excessive clearance both mid-peripherally and peripherally, especially in the inferior region. This pooling of fluorescein obscures the demarcation of the peripheral curves. The movement is typical of an excessively flat tip. Progressing to an even flatter lens shows the bearing area smaller and even more pronounced. At 2 diopters flat, the central lake touch area is oval-shaped and oriented positively, characteristic of with the rule high corneal
Those are
axis.
sample questions.
On the highly active bag cornea, comparing spherical lenses fit 2 diopters flat on K and 2 diopters deeper than K helps to bring out the distinct fluorescein pattern differences between these relationships. Our final section.
This
which
is the
by
final
toric
section on
lenses,
bitorics.
highly active
I wanna
bag
explain that before we actually see it. So this is, what time is it?